Tollway remains closed southbound from 159th to 163rd. All traffic's forced off at 159th due to a crash. The backup extends to around 143rd and Archer. Northbound traffic moves well there, but farther north it's stop and go from Boughton to the Reagan Tollway. Reagan Tollway has slow traffic eastbound Farnsworth to Highland. Inbound Eden's 28 minutes, Lake Cook to the junction. Outbound it's 40. Inbound Kennedy, 50 minutes. O'Hare to downtown. A little quicker on the express. Eisenhower, an hour, 390 to downtown. 47 minutes from Wolf Road. Stevenson, an hour, 355 to the drive. Ryan, 30 minutes from 95th. I-57, 26 minutes. I-80 to the merge. Bishop Ford, the same. And that's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte. On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center. Cloudy, very windy, and a lakeshore flood advisory is up. Colder today, a high of 36, currently 34. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity, this afternoon at 2 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So I'm in Dennis Prager land now. I sort of tuned out over the weekend. Blah, blah, blah. Closing arguments. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sort of done with it. You want to push off the acquittal past the State of the Union address tonight to tomorrow? Fine.
I watched it yesterday.
This was the first totally partisan presidential impeachment in our nation's history. And it should be our last.
The good news is it looks to be a bipartisan acquittal. And that's certainly going to be a problem for the Dems' narrative, as if there are not enough problems with the Dems' narrative. Also, everything else is turning up roses for the Democrats these days, too, from the performance of their app and their ability to use an abacus in Iowa last night to this story out of Milwaukee. This is two top officials overseeing Milwaukee's host committee for the 2020 Democrat National Convention.
Yeah.
Sidelined amid allegations of a toxic work culture. A letter to staff obtained by Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, said the board had retained an attorney to investigate concerns about work environment. Liz Gilbert, the president of the host committee, Adam Alonzo, she has no direct contact with staff anymore. Adam Alonzo, the chief of staff of the group, has been placed on administrative leave. The accused officials, Gilbert and Alonzo, their accusations include giving contracts to their friends in New Jersey, calling meetings and then failing to attend them, being more focused on accumulating power than promoting Milwaukee. This, by the way, the assertions come at the same time Alonzo, the chief of staff, is being accused in New Jersey of shaking down campaign contributors for his personal consulting business. So he just brought his act to Milwaukee, allegedly. It's one of the worst, if not the worst, I have worked on, said one official of the convention host committee. A second official said they would become sick to their stomach when working with the host committee, the first time they've experienced a toxic work environment, despite working on numerous campaigns. Boy, oh boy.
Wow, that's a lot to get through in a few sentences. That's a lot of corruption over there.
2020 is really firing out of the gate for Democrats. For more on these sort of topics, we're pleased to be joined by Josh Hammer, editor-at-large of the Daily Wire, of counsel at First Liberty Institute, and contributor to the New York Post. He has written about his exasperation with impeachment as well in the Post. Josh, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So it's the impeachment proceeding in the Senate, which moves to acquittal tomorrow. You say in your piece in the Post, more than a waste of time. That is far too charitable. This is more than just about lackluster television ratings and an uninterested public. This is about precedent setting and there should be a reckoning for the precedents that are being set.
Yeah, I think that is exactly what I said. That's a good summation. And, look, at a bare minimum, we knew that this entire ordeal was indeed a waste of time, okay, as a function of sheer mathematics, of sheer arithmetic, the same arithmetic that the Iowa State Democratic Party seems incapable of doing. We all knew beforehand that the Democrats lacked a majority, let alone the two-thirds needed for conviction in the Senate. So this acquittal was foreordained. It was set in stone from the very outcome, which made the entire Nancy Pelosi delay of the transmission of the articles and all the other various stunts and gambits that they've attempted. It's made it all silly. But you're right. It is worse than a waste of time because America is at a historically low point right now in terms of the American people's trust in their core institutions. The military is a slight exception. A majority of Americans, I believe, still poll, thank goodness, in favor of our men and women in uniform, but pretty much every other major institution across the country, be it religious institutions, the media, and then, of course, our political institutions and Congress. I think Congress's approval rating is like 4 or 5%. I mean, and that was before this thing started. And we're already obviously terribly divided in terms of partisan tribalism within our various parties and the cable news networks we watch. We are increasingly just living in two different Americas. And to impeach on a 5-page transcript of a phone call over what amounts to a policy disagreement over how the president conducted his phone call is just a disastrous overplaying of the Democrats' hands here. And I really do think that it's going to redound to Republicans' interest come November in terms of the ballot box.
And the ratings were so bad that the major media outlets went back to regular daily programming so people could watch their soap operas with a scroll underneath saying, go online if you want to watch closing arguments of the impeachment hearings. But let's talk about the Democrats who may vote to acquit. What are you hearing?
Yeah, so it does look like we're going to get bipartisan votes in favor of acquittal. I mean, Joe Manchin was kind of more or less a given from the outset. You know, he obviously, I think Trump won West Virginia in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, by 42 points, I think was the margin. It was the largest margin of any state in the country. So Manchin, who obviously has always been kind of an independent-minded sort of Democrat, obviously is also looking to his own electoral interest there. So, you know, he voted for the Kavanaugh confirmation. And that's another thing, by the way. There are some eerie parallels from my perspective between what's happened in this whole impeachment stunt and the entire Kavanaugh saga. Obviously not quite as gripping and dramatic as what happened with Kavanaugh in many ways. This really makes for lackluster television compared to what we saw that infamous day with Dr. Blasey Ford and Kavanaugh testifying. But just in terms of how the Democrats have just constantly changed the narrative and just all the bait and switch tactics. So, you know, we went from quid pro quo to bribery to abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, whatever those nebulous terms are even supposed to mean. So there's really some eerie parallels here. And similarly, just as you had Joe Manchin vote for Kavanaugh, it does look like we're going to get some Democrats to vote to acquit. So good for those who are going to do so. This is I think is a profoundly dangerous thing the Democrats have done here. This is the most recklessly partisan impeachment attempt since the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson at the beginning of Reconstruction, which is also a very partisan affair. So this is the worst presidential impeachment in at least 150 years. It's a very, very reckless thing, and I really do hope the American people punish them for it.
Yeah, but the problem is they don't get punished for it. I mean, there's a new documentary out about Clarence Thomas, Created Equal, and, we forget the particulars of the saga of his confirmation hearing. But the Democrats, Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas before they Kavanaugh. That's 3 decades earlier. And then so they continue from the same playbook because even when they lose, they win, don't they? And they get another bite at the apple and another bite at the apple, and there's more give and there's more give. Clarence Thomas, for people who forget, this was the whole Anita Hill testimony was the result of leaking closed-door testimony, which was a crime, closed-door testimony from Anita Hill that the Senate Judiciary Committee deadlocked on whether or not to make public, so it wasn't to be made public. It was leaked ostensibly by one of the Senate Democrats or their staff, and then the whole Anita Hill public spectacle ensued, and the uppity lynching, or the lynching of an uppity black man, as Clarence Thomas declared, having to fight for his own life and save his nomination, which of course he did. But that's in the early 90s, and so Kavanaugh last year, and so Trump impeachment this year, over and over and over again.
That's exactly right. If anything, it actually didn't even start with Clarence Thomas. That was 1991, but it really started 4 years earlier
with Bork.
with the vicious smear campaign of Bob Bork from Ted Kennedy and Joe Biden, were really the two ringleaders of that circus. really, if you look back at the history of Supreme Court nominations, this is the historical consensus, and it's consensus because I think it's basically accurate. It was the Bork nomination that was the turning point, because 1 year prior, in 1986, was when Reagan tapped Antonin Scalia to the court, and Scalia was confirmed by an overwhelming margin. He had like over 90, maybe even 95 votes. I don't remember the exact tally. So then a year later, Ted Kennedy and Joe Biden decided to pull off all the stunts about quote unquote Bob Bork's America and like the back alley abortions and all this other various forms of fear mongering. So the two sides really are not equal in terms of their treatment of the other party's high court nominees. I mean, sure, conservatives and Republicans oppose then nominees Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor, but they did not do these sort of vicious, ad hominem, personal biographical campaigns to destroy the life of an individual. That is just it is vile tactics. And the Kavanaugh nomination for me was, I view that as a civilizational wake-up call. They threw out 5,000 years, from my perspective, of basic, innocent until proven guilty civilizational norms. And, what's happening here is it's not 5,000 years of recklessness, but it is at least 150 years of recklessness to the last impeachment that I think was dangerous for the Republic.
But do you think that, he'll be acquitted tomorrow, and then what? Are there going to be more impeachments in, say, a few weeks from now, or maybe after the 2020 election?
Yeah, I'm a
is
little...
this ever going to end?
I don't think the Democrats... Look, I could be wrong. I don't think they're that stupid to try to draft new articles before November. That's a pretty compressed timeline. I do think they would try again if you were reelected, because at this point they can't help themselves. They're kind of like the proverbial dog who's like caught the garbage truck or whatever, and like now they don't really know how to like lash their teeth off of that truck. They're just gonna keep on coming, and they're really kowtowing to the Ocasio-Cortez flank right now. And I do think that they'll try to impeach. It's unclear what exactly for. The column I wrote for the New York Post before this column this past weekend was about the alleged violation of the Impoundment Control Act, which seems like months ago, but that was actually only like 2 or 2.5 weeks ago when that whole narrative came out that Trump violated the statute. So they'll find a hook. It's kind of like the proverbial Stalin tactic line, right? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So that's really been the Democrat modus operandi here since day one. Is they've seen Trump, they knew they wanted to impeach him, and they're just going to glom onto whatever they possibly can to reach their conclusion.
And it's interesting too. As much time, the sort of reading of tea leaves with these surveys. Supermajority of Americans want witnesses. A majority of Americans think Trump did something wrong in the call with Zelensky. But by the same token, there's a Zogby poll out yesterday. Trump's approval rating now eclipsing 50% is at 51% in the Zogby survey. And Zogby notes that he has rebounded with independents, women, suburban voters, and suburban women to get over 50%. And so, this is sort of, I guess, a reflection of a bit of the muddled mind of American voters, because the D.C. press corps pounds one message, and then you intermittently watch what's actually going on, and you're looking at it a bit askance, saying, "Well, wait a second, that doesn't sound like exactly what I'm being told is happening."
Yeah, no, I think that's also well said. If you look at the Real Clear Politics average, Trump's approval rating, if anything, and I try my best to work with averages because there always are going to be some one-off polls. Mm-hmm. But in his approval rating in the Real Clear Politics average, which I've been tracking on at least a weekly basis for our site, the Daily Wire, if anything, it's inched up over this impeachment affair. It certainly has not gone down, and there's some decent evidence that it's inched up. I haven't looked today yet, but he's been polling right around 45 to 46% or so, if I recall, in the Real Clear Politics average. And, the reality is that just like in 2016, Republicans actually do not need to win the national popular vote in order to secure an electoral college majority. And Henry Olsen, who actually, like me, went to UFC right there in Chicago for law school, really smart guy. He's a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center and writes a frequent column for the Washington Post. He's kind of a polling horse race junkie, and he did some math, and I thought this really nice piece back in November, and showed that in order for the president to feel secure about his reelection chances, he really only needs to hit like 46.5 to 47% as far as job approval rating, which is historically low, right? Historically speaking, most presidents have not felt great about re-election if their approval rating on election day is under 50%. But the Electoral College map is such that, and Trump's unique political figure is such that most historical trends are oftentimes inapplicable to the current president. So he's really not that far off right now. And as you know, if you're seeing polls where his approval rating is 50%, then he is. I would feel pretty good. I mean, it's hardly a given, obviously, because those Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, you got to fight for every vote in those states still. But I would feel pretty good right now, especially after that dumpster fire last night in Iowa. It's hard not to feel good if you're the Trump campaign today.
He is Josh Hammer, editor-at-large of the Daily Wire, of counsel at First Liberty Institute, and contributor to the New York Post. Josh, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Good morning, America.
Or is it? If you're one of the millions of Americans who did not sleep well last night, it's probably a pretty average morning.
But listen up, you sleep-deprived people. There's good news. A breakthrough sleep solution called Pronto Sleep.
And when we say pronto, we mean pronto. Pronto Sleep gently opens your nose to focus breathing and help you relax and fall asleep. And the built-in scent diffuser delivers a blend of 4 pure essential oils to help you stay asleep naturally.
And then Pronto replenishes the oils ready for the next night. Too easy, eh?
And in trials, 84% of people with trouble sleeping found Pronto helped them fall asleep, and 74% found it helped them stay asleep. So make every morning a
Good morning, America.
with Pronto Sleep, available now at select Walgreens, Amazon, or at prontosleep.com.
Pronto Sleep from Rhinomed, bringing you advanced nasal therapies.
So maybe you have missing teeth and you're thinking about dental implants. There's a lot to consider: safety, quality, price, and more. Make a call today and get your questions answered. Implant Tuesday is today. It's your reminder to make the call and get the information. Dr. Neruzzi and his staff at Fox River Periodontics are waiting to take your call from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. today. Call 630-232-7400. Make the call and get the info to make a good decision. Dr. Neruzzi and his staff will tell you the truth about the procedure and everything you need to know, like the quality of the implant and what you should consider to make it a great experience. It's Implant Tuesday. Call 630-232-7400. Considered a trusted local practice for the western suburbs and all of Chicagoland. Fox River Periodontics is in Geneva. 630-232-7400 is their number, or you can chat with them online at implants4me, implants4me.com. Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Amanda Zanger, owner of Black Industrial and Safety Supply in Hammond, Indiana, and a business customer of Signature Bank. Prior to owning my own business, I worked for a major financial institution. So when it came time to finance the acquisition of Black, I approached a big bank, only to receive a solid no. That's when Signature Bank stepped in. With Signature Bank, the process was different. Signature provided creative financing options that enabled me to purchase Black and continue to grow the business. Thanks to Signature Bank, Black Industrial is able to continue serving Fortune 500 industry